Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Miss Eva Sogochukwu, and in today's tutorial, guys, I'll be teaching you how to sew this maternity shade gown. Of course, I've cut out my lining behind the camera, and while cutting it, I reduced it by 2 inches so that it can enable me to fold it with my Ankara or my African print. So this is it for my shade gown. I've cut out the lining both for the front piece and the back piece. These pieces here is going to serve as my buttonhole space. Of course, the wideness of the pieces is 2 inches and the length of the piece is 42 inches, which is the full length of my gown. Okay, so guys, this is it, and I'll be attaching this long rope at the center front of my fabric. Alright, I'll be folding it into 2, and after folding it into 2, I'm going to stitch it up. It's going to serve as my buttonhole space. Alright, so guys, the next thing that we are now going to do is to get the work started. Now I am folding that my piece that I cut out for my buttonhole space. I'm going to be attaching it to the center front of my front piece. All right, the same thing is applicable to the other one, to the other side. So guys, let's stitch in this first one with my buttonhole space. Let's get into the sewing section. So guys, after stitching, this is how it looks like. Okay, now towards the end of my gown length, the length of my gown, I loosened up the stitching a bit. This will enable me to attach my lining. All right, but while attaching your lining, make sure that you're facing your lining with the front piece of that your dress. Don't make a mistake of facing your lining at the back piece. Okay, this is my front piece. I'm now going to stitch it up. All right, then after stitching it up, guys, the next thing that I'm now going to do is to lock my stitching, which is the second stitch. This is it for my first stitching. I'll finish up my first stitching. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to turn over the lining, then sew it on top of the lining. All right, this will give us a relaxed folding after our work. Okay, so guys, this is how it looks like after stitching at the lining. So the next thing I'm now going to do is to finish up my stitching at the length of the gown. Towards the ending of the length, I'm not going to finish up the stitching. That place I loosened the bit, I will stitch it up. Okay, so after stitching it up, I'm now going to fold our gown. I'm now going to turn it up. All right, so let's get into the sewing section. Then guys, after stitching it up, this is how it looks like. Okay, we are done with our folding at the front, and we have finished up our stitching towards the ending of the length. So the next thing we are now going to do is to turn up our lining and tuck it in with our buttonhole space. All right, so guys, take a look at how I'm going to do it. First of all, I am going to turn up our lining. Remember, I reduced 2 inches in my lining when I was cutting it. It wasn't the actual full length of my dress. Like, the length of my dress is 42, but what I used in my lining was 40 inches. So guys, I'm now going to sew it at that place that I stitched in my buttonhole space with my fabric, with my front piece. So after tucking it in, this is how it's going to look like. So guys, I've tucked it in. Please be careful while making your own stitches so that you don't make mistake. So the next thing I'm now going to do is to stitch it from the outside. After turning it up, for you to know whether your work is perfect, the length of your shoulder for your Ankara is going to be the same with your lining. So guys, coming to the back piece, this is our back piece. Remember, while facing it up with your lining, make sure that your lining is placed on top of the front piece of that dress. Place, then stitch the first one, then lock it up with the second one. That's arithmetic. Then stitch it from the outside. After facing it up, the next thing you are going to do is to make a stitch from the outside for the remaining sides. Okay, both the shoulder and the stitching side and the armhole side. Then the next thing we are now going to do is to bring out our 2 front space. This is our buttonhole space. Make sure that the 2 buttonhole space are sitting perfectly together on top of each other. Then use a pin to pin it up so that you will not make mistake while shaping our dress. So after pinning it up, guys, this is how it's going to look like. We are now going to shape up our shoulder. I'll place the 2 fabrics together, the front piece and the back piece, and I'm going to shape our shoulder. I'll be shaping my shoulder with half inches. All right, so guys, after shaping my shoulder, The next thing that I'm now going to do after shaping in my shoulder is to shape my dress. But before shaping your dress, guys, make sure that they are sitting perfectly on top of your shoulder. Use pin and pin it up, okay, so that you don't make mistakes while shaping. Coming to my measurement, my bust measurement is 41 inches divided by 2 gave me 20 and a half. I marked it. Now count the remaining measurements that are behind that my 20 and a half. Anything it gave me, I divided it by 2 and I marked it. It's 2.5 inches. So to my waist measurement, for me to get my measurement, because this is a straight gown, it looks straight, because it's a maternity gown, I can't even find my waist measurement. So I'm going to place my tape at the tip of my shoulder level. Don't go to your armhole side because you've removed half inch from there. So I went at the back of my neckline. From where I joined my neckline, I placed my tape and I count down from there to my 16 inches, which is my half cut. I now placed my tape there, divided my half cut into 2, and it gave me 21.5 inches. It's a maternity gown, so it's a shapeless gown. I now counted the inches that are behind it, divided it into 2, and I marked it from where I made my first mark. Family, this is a gown that is going to be having a pocket. For me to find the point where my pocket will sit at, I will place my tape at the back of my neckline. From there, I counted down 18 inches from there. You can also use your armhole depth to locate the position of your pocket. Just place your tape at the armhole depth and count down 9 inches from there. So guys, the next thing that I'm now going to do is to place my tape at my particular waistline, then count down 9 inches from down my waistline. This is going to help me to indicate my hip point. I'll also place my tape where I ruled a line for my pocket and count down 9 inches from there to indicate where my pocket is going to stop at, okay? Then the next thing I'm now going to do is to slide up and take my hip measurement. For my hip measurement is 41 inches. Of course, I divided it by 2 and I got 20.5 inches. I am going to mark the 20.5 inches. Then after marking the 20.5 inches, I'm going to count the remaining inches after 20.5 inches. Anything I get, I'm going to divide it by 2 and make my mark for my hip line, okay? So this is it, guys. Of course, I've divided into 2. Then I'm going to mark. Then the remaining inches that are left behind, I'm going to count them. Then I divided them into 2 and I made my second mark. This is for my shaping, okay? So guys, I'll be going down to the full length of the gown with the shaping allowance that I got from my hip measurements. That is it for the shaping, okay? So guys, I will now join them together. It's a method of tracing. I'm not tracing it out with my chalk. Guys, remember, this is my waist point, this is my hip point, and this is my bust point. So guys, I'm not going to leave here. Remember, this is a pocket gown. We are not going to be shaping it because this is where our pockets will be entering, alright? So guys, the same thing is applicable to the other side. The same measurement that we used to shape for this side, we are going to be using it for the other side, okay? So guys, the next thing that I'm now going to do is to insert my pocket after shaping the both sides. I finished shaping up the both sides. Remember, the space for my pocket, we didn't shape it up, alright? So we are now going to open that my shaping space. I'll place my first pocket towards the ending of my fabric. Don't go into your shaping line, but at the end of your fabric, okay? That was why I gave 2 inches allowance, so that it will give me enough space. So guys, I am pinning it up with my pin. The same thing is applicable to the other one. I'm going to place it towards the extreme side of the dress. So guys, I'll finish pinning it up. Then the next thing I'm now going to do is to stitch it, alright? So guys, we are going to stitch it at the extreme. Then after stitching it up, we are now going to sew it around. So guys, after stitching it at the extreme, this is how it's going to look like. This is it. I've stitched it up at the extreme. Then the next thing that I'm now going to do is to stitch it round. Then from that my waistline, I am going to start stitching it up from where I made my shaping. I will stitch it up from the waistline and connect it to the hip line, okay? The same thing is applicable to the other side. So guys, I'm done with my pocket. The next thing I'm going to do now is to measure up my neckline. This is going to enable me to insert my collar. We are now going to be working on our collar. Then I am now going to measure up my neckline. I'll use my tape, measure, make sure that it is accurate. All right, if there is any place that is curvy, stretch it. Make sure that every measurement entered into your tape. Okay, after measuring, I measured up 18.5 inches. So I'm now going to cut out a long strap of 18 inches, but it's not exactly at 18 inches. My collar stand, I cut out 21 inches. Then for my main collar, I cut out 18 inches, which is the actual length of my neckline. Then in that 18 inches, I went in by 1 inch from each side. When you deduct 1 inch from each side, we are now going to be getting 16 inches. Then when you mark the 1 inches from each side, you are now going to slant it to the top. Okay, then after slanting it to the top, I've gotten my exact measurement for my collar. I folded it into 2 parts. I made a tiny notch to indicate my center. The same thing is applicable to my collar stand. The two of them, I folded the two of them together and made a notch to indicate my center. Then for me to create my collar, I placed one of my collar stand, I placed my main collar at the middle, and I placed the remaining collar stand on top of my collar. I now stitched them up. But before stitching them up, stitch in your collar from the inside. Alright, then after stitching the collar from the inside, then I did this second stitching, which is this. So guys, we are now going to attach my collar stand to my neckline, but before doing that, I folded my neckline into 2 and I made a tiny notch to indicate my center as well. Then from that my center, I am going to be fixing in my collar from the middle. I placed one of my collar stand center to center. I used my pin and I held it in. So guys, I'm now going to go round and stitch it up to my neckline from the back, not from the front. Then after stitching it, which is my neckline, I am now going to be finishing up my stitching at the front piece of the dress. But before doing this, we are going to fold up the edges of my collar stand. So guys, from the place you made your first stitching, which is from the inside, fold it up. Just take a look at what I did. Fold up the remaining part and stitch it straight up to the top of your collar stand. Please be careful for you not to stitch up your collar stand and your main collar. Then guys, the next thing we are now going to do, take a look at what I did. I have finished up my stitching and I've trimmed out the excess piece. So guys, I'm now going to arrange my collar stand in an orderly manner, then fold it from the outside and lock up my stitching. So guys, this is what it looks like after stitching. I'm done with my collar. Then the next thing I'm now going to do is to work on my buttonhole space. I'm now going to be creating my own buttonhole. Guys, you can make use of your manual machine to open up your buttonhole space. You can also make use of your buttonhole machine, but guys, I'll be improvising mine with my manual machine. Okay, so guys, from your collar stand, make your first mark, then go down with 3 inches. I went down by 3 inches. You can make use of 2.5 inches or 3.5, but I'll be making use of 3 inches. All right, so after fixing in my buttonhole space, this is how it looks like. For my sleeve, guys, I've made a video on where I uploaded how to draft and sew a bishop sleeve. If you are still confused in any way, you can go back to that my video and check it out. Okay, so guys, I think I'm done with today's tutorial. Thank you so much for giving me a listening ear. I'm hoping to see you in my next video. Please, if you have not subscribed, please do well to subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification button. It's going to remind you anytime that I release a new video. Please also like and share my video. If you like what you saw, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Bye.